Hi and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a book review. So if you enjoy this type of content and other homeschool and lifestyle content, please remember to subscribe and let's get into it. Alright, so it's been a while since I've done a book review. I used to do them every month, then I went to every other month, and then the last few months have just been kind of crazy, and I also just didn't want to read as much. Do you guys go through that? Like, you love to read normally, but then I don't know, it's just like times and seasons where you just kind of feel like, well, you just don't want to read. And so I just really did not read a whole lot. And I am going to show you, it's 5 books, but 4 of them are in a series. And both of them are from book club suggestions, which I am usually not able to go to book club just because of the timing, and my husband's not around on the particular days that it happens. But I still like to read the books, and they're always good suggestions and books that I don't normally read. So what I'm going to show you is from book club stuff. But I'm also working on 2 other books. Hopefully in a couple months when I do another one of these, I'll try to still do it every couple of months. I will have those books done. They're a little bit more like deep thinking books. And so unlike novels or things that have a storyline to them, they're a little bit harder for me to process. Sometimes I can get through those kind of books a little quicker, and sometimes it just takes me forever just because there's nothing to really grab my attention and engage me super well. So that's kind of how I feel like I am right now with them. So we're trying to work on it. But I'm going to show you a few of the books today from those book club suggestions, and I loved all of them. And I'll go through and share a few insights about them. All right, so the first book I wanted to mention is The Measure. This is an amazing book that like really makes your mind think. And with both of the books in the series that I'm going to show you, it's a little hard for me to explain too much because I don't want to give it away. That's the hardest thing when I do more story, like novel type stuff. It's difficult to explain the whole reason why it was so good because I don't want to give the story away to you. Whereas other books, you can go through and pick out points and things like that, and it's easier. But the idea of this book is, and it even starts, like this is how it starts, is all of humanity, so the world we live in now, opens their doors one morning to these boxes, and the box has a string in it. And the strings are different lengths, and they come to find out that all this stuff, it's the measure of your life, like how long your life is going to be. And over several months, which it goes through this too, again, I'm just trying to give you an overview without giving the story away. They learn how to measure these strings. At first it was just kind of estimates, so you have this short string, so maybe you have 5 years to live. And you have a really long string, so you're probably going to live till you're in your 80s. And they weren't getting these boxes. I think they were 21 or 22 or something, like younger than that, didn't get the boxes. It was just older. And then everyone after that, as they turned 22 or whatever the age was, they would get a box. So when they first showed up, you know, everybody's getting them. And then after that, it's just at a certain age that they keep showing up. And so eventually they have it so accurate that they're like basically down to the month or something. Like it's very specific. This is when you are going to die. And it goes through the story of, I can't even remember. I think it talks about how many people on the back. It's like 6 or 7. It starts out and is only kind of covering the story of a few people, which I appreciate because I come, sorry, my throat, we're trying not to get colds around here. So I appreciate how they did just a few characters at the beginning, and then they built upon those gradually, because sometimes when books have a lot of different characters and you're bouncing from story to story, it's very hard to keep track. And once they started adding more people, I'm like, had to remind myself who they were, but it was nice to have some established characters that you're like, oh, okay, this is who started the story. It was just a little easier to follow that way. So it goes through different types of relationships, different struggles that they're having. It also just covers, this would just be, sorry, I was just like, this would just be such a good book club book. If you want to pick a good book, this would be it. I was sad that I didn't get to go. The discussion stuff with this book would just be absolutely amazing. As I'm like replaying everything in my head, because it's been over a month probably since I read the book. But they go through humanity and just all the things that happen now, that because they have short stringers, like, oh, you're a short stringer, and those that are going to live longer, and just all the things that develop because of it, the fights, the problems in society. They start like dating apps that are only for short stringers, and then those for those that are long, I don't know if they call them long stringers. Anyway, those with longer strings. Anyways, all these divisions start to happen in society because of this thing. And there's some people that choose not to know. And in some places in the world is what it's called. In the world, they don't have a choice. Either everybody has to know, or they might get taken away by the government, or like the military might have to know because they don't want certain people with certain strings being in the military. So there's all these things that just cause so many problems. And I feel like it can be applied so much to today, and becoming so focused on that thing that you might make it happen, you know, or whatever. Like there's just so many good lessons that could come from it. And divisions, like, because we know that people are different than us, do we create a huge division and fights over it? Or do we try to be more understanding and realize we're all human beings, and the different choices people make now that they know that their lives are shorter versus longer? There's just so many good things to discuss in this book. So I feel like if you want a really good discussion book for book club, even though like it's a story in a, you know, novel type format, which makes it even better, I think, that this is a really good book. There's just so many good things you could talk about. All right, and then the next 4 books I wanted to mention are the Lunar Chronicles. If you have never heard of them, don't worry, neither had I. They're YA novels, so young adult novels. And Cinder was this is the first book in the series that was picked for book club. And so I got this first book and was like, oh, okay, we'll see how it goes. I don't even know what this is about or anything like that. So from reading the description, it's basically an idea of their fairy tales that we're fairly familiar with, but reinvented, obviously. So in this one, she's a cyborg. This girl, Cinder, is a cyborg and lives sort of, I guess, in a futuristic town, like world and stuff like that, where there's people that live on the moon, which is why it's called the Lunar Chronicles. And so it goes through her story. And so I read this book for book club and get to the end of it, and I'm like, I need the next one. Well, I realized a little bit like halfway through or something that I needed the next book, but I had to wait like 2 days for it to be delivered on Amazon. I could have gotten the Kindle book too, but my daughter had become interested in reading them. She's 11. And so I was like, okay, we'll just get the books, and I just like having books anyways. And these ones are pretty. I'll show you all of them. I really love like the whole bright color schemes going on. So I get to the end of this book and it just kind of stops, which, sorry if that's a spoiler, it's not telling you how it stops, but the point is you want all the books. And so when you start to read this, I would have bought the box set if I had known I was going to like this book so much. Because there's some series that you can read the first book and you could probably even read some of the other books. And yes, they might build on each other, but not as directly. And this one basically just like leads into the next story. And so when this one ends on I feel like most of them end on cliffhangers. Some of them maybe provide a little bit more closure in some ways than others. But for the most part, they end on cliffhangers. And so you want the next story. So these aren't series that you'd be able to read out of order. Not many can you do that, but there are some books that you can. Like they all build on each other. The characters are like Cinder, and later on as you get into the other books and meet a lot of other characters, they're all play very main parts in all the books as it goes on. Where again, sometimes series will introduce new main characters, and you'll still see some of the previous characters, but they're not as important. Whereas these ones, they're all like play huge roles. So the next one is Scarlet. So this is, why can't I think of her name? Red Riding Hood. Is that right? Yes. I was like, what is her name? Obviously Scarlet, her hair is all red and stuff. So that introduces her, and then also includes Cinder. And then you have Cress, which is Rapunzel. Okay, she has very long hair. And then Winter is a play on like Snow White. And so none of these follow the fairy tales strictly. You know, they're very loose interpretations, but include certain parts. And let me just tell you, this book, even though it looks smaller than this book, it is twice as big. Like the pages in this one are, I don't know if they just use thinner pages, but it's heavier. I can feel it when I picked it up compared to the other ones. It's 800 pages. And so it's like 2 stories in one. But they're all so good. I really love the story. They're very clean. You know, there might be small like innuendos, but I feel like you just wouldn't get them if you just don't know. Because you know, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I got it, but or if that's even what they mean. But there's very, very little swearing. I really only recognized anything in the last book. I'm like trying to even remember if I really noticed anything before that. So very clean, very good with language. Like I said, we let our 11-year-old read them. It was kind of a race because she found one at the library. And so she was trying to get done before me, but I beat her. I read the whole series in 2 weeks. If I had had more time and if I didn't have to wait on Amazon, it probably would have been closer to a week or a week and a half. And you know, like trying to fit it in amongst all the other things I had to do was difficult, but I was so excited to read them all the time. But I think she read them about the same time. It was about 2 weeks for her as well. And she really enjoyed them. We have not talked about them a ton because my husband might read them. So there's different things where I'm like, I want to mention this to you, but I don't want to spoil something if you want to read them. So anyway, they're very, very good. I feel like they're very appropriate for like younger YA audience as well, if they like that kind of thing. These generally aren't my type of books. I don't read a lot of books like this, and some of them that I have aren't necessarily my favorite, but I really, really loved these. So if you're looking for those kind of books, book club book, if you want a discussion book club book, I don't know if they're the best. There are some topics you could pick out and still find stuff to discuss about, you know, she's a cyborg, so she's different than society. They're like owned by humans and stuff like that. So there's different things you could pick out and talk about, and like having androids and whether or not you think that would be a good idea. So I feel like there's things you could pick out. Nothing compared to The Measure, the other book I mentioned, but still really good. And I really love them. They're only discussing the first book, but I read all of them because I love them so much. All right, so that is my book review for the last 4-ish months, 3 months. I don't know, it's been a while. Hopefully I'll be more consistent. I am reading. I did read a few books on my Kindle, I think, but those were definitely more fluffy. I don't feel like these were as fluffy. You know, they were a little bit more intricate, detailed stories, a lot of things going on to keep track of and stuff, not just completely mindless thinking as I read a book. And so I really liked these ones a lot. But hopefully next time I'll have other books. I have lots in the works. I just am trying to get motivated again to read those kind of books, and life has just been really busy with trying to get ankle recovery all done and all the things. So it's just been really a lot. But I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to get you some book reviews that you know, books you can look forward to reading. So if you have other suggestions for me, put them down in the comments and I will get to them. I don't know when, maybe when I'm 80, but I will work my hardest and my darndest to read them as well, because I love all your guys' suggestions. And remember to give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.